internet connection hotel issues.
Again.
As per usual on this.
I'm not hearing any audio.
Trip. Are you not hearing any audio?
No,
it's popping up on here.
But this is off. There's no light. There's no light on.
Why fuck is the audio going to the
It's
iPad?
going through the iPad, yeah. No, it just needs to be plugged in all the way.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear it now?
Yeah. Let me do this.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey guys, we're back.
Hold on. Okay, good. We're good.
We just we're having some technical difficulties. This recording podcasts in hotel rooms thing has been a lot more difficult than we thought. They were apparently monitoring us and thought that we were stealing TV when we recorded this. What's Baymont gonna do? They can come. Are the Baymont police gonna come and arrest me?
I don't know, but we got shut off already. We are in alien country, and we were talking about aliens.
Yes.
Anyway, go ahead.
So, the other aspect of the movie that I thought was important was that it was a very weird ending to the movie because. Like, the thing is, I'm going to get into how the official government story, in my opinion, is complete bullshit and how there are certain assumptions you can make. But, I don't know, this movie had a very specific take at the end of it where there was just a guy talking for the last 5 or 10 minutes and he's like, no, like, basically, like, Buddha was an alien. And
right.
All the aliens, like, are messing with you through telekinesis and in your mind. And
the aliens are coming. The aliens are coming. A bunch of different species are coming. Yeah. Like there's going to be an invasion.
It's all transdimensional. They're all actually here right now. And then the movie just kind of ends.
Well, honestly, at the end too, he says like you can believe it or you cannot. But like that's what I'm telling you. Like because the whole thing is about some guy like trying to prove that he's not a crazy person and that something really happened. In Roswell.
Well, I mean,
not Roswell, but
yeah.
Corona,
right?
Yeah.
And technically, Scott, since the movie just ends, you're glossing over the father-son relationship. That was very tightly tied up.
His son was kind of mad at him earlier, and they both just kind of stand out in the desert and look up at the sky, and then the movie ends.
Yeah,
it's like, and here's the thing in the movie. So the son's mad that the dad is still pursuing this years later. The alien thing, and he's like, "You're wrong." And it's like, dude, that kid was old enough. At least we're just gonna go by the movie situation. He was old enough. Oh, sorry, there we go. And he was old enough that it's like he had the tinfoil in his hand, well, the quote unquote tinfoil, the alien craft in his hand that crumbled up, that was sliced, and went back to normal. And yet they don't really explain it. All of a sudden, he just in the end, I guess he just doesn't believe that he saw that. He was old enough that he would have remembered that. Yet for some reason, he just tells his dad to bury it. And then at the very end, they sit there and they're kind of like, they don't even say like, you know what, Dad, I do remember. They just look at each other and then it fades away.
Yeah, the camera fades out from them just chilling where the site used to be.
Which is also very much not at all the truth of the matter because actually Marcel's son was a big advocate of UFO stuff. But anyways.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. You didn't tell us that. So.
Yeah. But being as how this is not a movie review episode, let's get into the actual story of this.
Okay.
So in July 2nd of 1947, a UFO or something exploded during a thunderstorm all over Corona. It was, technically speaking, it was definitely a UFO because it was flying and it was unidentified.
That's true. And for context, by the way, now that we've been there, and again, we'll be talking about it later in the week, it was about an hour and 45-minute drive from here. And we were in the UFO museum today, and it said that back then, under the road conditions and whatnot, it would have been a day's drive.
Yes.
Damn. And so we're all told it's Roswell, right? We get here to Roswell. That's where the museum is, the little green people everywhere. And yet really at the time, it was a day's drive.
That's so weird because,
oh my God. This episode. Fucking aliens, man.
Yeah, I blame the government.
You should blame the government.
Find something to put back.
Put it behind.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Basically, you have. We went to Corona briefly, and we will talk about that on our On the Road episode. But the thing that's really interesting about Corona is that it is an insanely small city. It has a population of about 150 people. And it is.
Okay.
Did I do something?
No, you're good.
Yeah, you switched off of the restream for a second, but it's all right. Anyway, I put it back. So this looks better.
No, you gotta do it like this, dude. This has got to be up on this thing.
Hey guys, thanks for bearing with us, guys. It's,
Okay, there we go.
There we go. Podcast. Yeah, so it is a very, very small town, and one of the things, I don't even know, how do we fix this? What do we, like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
You're fine.
Okay. The three guys and a giant mic. So anyway, we had, there was a couple of days. If there was one time period I could go back to in the last 100 years in a time machine, it might have been this moment, because from July 2nd to July 5th, there were no military there. Nobody had told Roswell, which was the closest town. And there was just a UFO that had exploded in the area, and a ton of locals trying to figure out what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
And there were basically three important artifacts from this. One is lightweight, strong aluminum that appears to be extremely thin, and yet even if you were very strong, you could not like put it over your knee and bend it at all. Like it was really solid.
How couldn't they crumple it up?
No, that's a different sort of metal.
Okay.
That we'll get into in a second. That was the one kind. Then you had these things that looked like balsa wood that had a bunch of hieroglyphic symbols written on them, and people were finding that. And then the third thing is this thing called memory metal, which is the big thing of like the Roswell investigators and stuff like that. Really, that's their holy grail, because if you find this, there would be really no denying that it must have been aliens or something, because this metal would you could crumple it up and then set it down and it would retake its form. If you cut it, the cut would just heal within a couple of seconds. They were taking this supposedly and throwing it in the air and shooting it with their guns, and they would watch the bullet hole like recover itself.
They would throw it up in the air and shoot it, and then it heals.
Yes.
Okay.
How wild this must have been, because as Scott was saying, this town was very desolate. As I just kind of said, it was back then, under the circumstances, a day's drive into Roswell, which wasn't even necessarily huge.
No.
And then didn't even have electricity until what, 86? You said, like
1986 Corona got electricity. That's how small this town is.
What a situation this must have been for these people. Like even though it's in the 40s, and by most standards of us are living, like we have things by then, running water, electricity at most places, right? Shit like that, like cars and stuff. But like they are living in a very desolate area, and what this must have been like you said, to go back in a time machine and see these people. Like, it honestly feels like it must have been like people, if you went into the Amazon right now and showed them an iPad.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly how I would imagine it. And to be there with the energy that must have been present, because there's stories of, people at the local bar drinking and passing this stuff around and playing with it, trying to understand what the hell was happening.
How has no one ever did the government just recover all of the metal? Like,
yeah, we'll get into that briefly in a little bit, but they took extreme measures to make sure that they got every single piece
for a weather balloon, right?
Yes. Yeah. Which, okay, if we want to talk about that real quick, the thing about the whole, they tried to say it was a weather balloon, and they've changed the story multiple times. But the original first thing they said was it was a weather balloon, which was absurd, because in this area, weather balloons crashed all the fucking time. These people knew what a weather balloon was. And they would have, they saw them as a nuisance. It would be like, oh, God damn it, my sheep are grazing out in this field. I got to move this weather balloon that crashed again. That sort of a situation. But
so they would have known what a weather balloon is. You know what I mean? Is what you're saying.
All the time.
And for what it's worth, too, we'll get into some of their story changes later. But they later tried to be like, oh, it was this experimental technology we were messing with for the Cold War. But then it's like, why did the military not show up until somebody told them it crashed?
Yeah, right. Why
weren't they prepared for when it landed?
It's like in the movie, and again, the movie was not a documentary. Yeah. But in the movie, the guy says, like, well, maybe it came from Santa Fe or Albuquerque, Santa Fe, Los Las. I'm trying to think of the city south.
The surrounding military bases.
Yeah. And he's like, dude, this is a massive, crash site. If they were looking, they'd found it.
Yeah.
Like they would have found it. How come they haven't been here yet?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And especially if you were testing out some sort of experimental technology or something, you'd be totally on top of that. You would know the second.
Yeah, the government would not just sit there and be like, yeah, we're testing this thing out for Army needs. It crashed. We'll just gotta play it by ear, see if something shows up. If not, whatever, man. Hopefully it just went into a place that no one knows about.
And it went so far as that local law enforcement at first, when they heard about it, were just completely like unimpressed and didn't care. Eventually, Sheriff Wilcox, who was the sheriff in that area, did come out, and then he was like, what the hell? They ended up going down to Roswell because it was the closest military base, and the military people didn't care about it right away. Like they were kind of like,
what is this?
Or, what is this? Whatever. A bunch of yokels are fucking spreading stories.
Wait.
To come back.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, we're back. Cool.
I'm telling you, man. To me, something about it. We're in Roswell talking aliens.
They don't like it.
Yeah, sure. It certainly cannot be an overly authoritarian hotel room. That we are in, trying to make sure we're not streaming movies.
I don't think it's that. I think it's the aliens. I'm pretty sure.
Fair enough. What are the other for sure?
One more than the other. It's the aliens.
So they sent out the 509th Bomb Group, which was headed by Colonel Marcel, who is the guy from the Roswell movie. And they went out there and they were like, holy fuck, this is a UFO. I mean, that was their immediate response. They were like, this is alien technology. This is whatever this is. This did not come from Earth.
Yeah.
And which keep in mind, like I said, the guy running this worked on the atomic bomb. This was an
incredible man.
Incredible man, yes. And they came out and they gave a press conference and they were like, we found a UFO.
And really? So in the movie, they obviously don't show this. So they did officially even come out and say something. Wow.
Yes.
Was it in like a paper or the radio or what? How, like a press
they did a press. Like, okay, if you're doing a press conference, I think radio.
Have like new cameras and stuff back then. I'm trying to remember.
I don't think you would have had video, but you would have had radio.
Yep.
It would have been a press conference over the radio, and then a series of news stories were released in local newspapers all around the area, being like the military said that they found an alien spacecraft.
Oh my,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
like, that is wild.
And then within hours of that stuff being released, then another general, basing on his name right now, he basically his superiors, Marcel's superiors, came out in Fort Worth, Texas, and they said, no, it was a misidentified weather balloon. That was wrong what was said, and it was just a mistake, basically. Then they brought Marcel out within about a day from that and gave him a talking to. And then they had him show up at another press conference and be like,
and this is the famous one.
Yes. And this is where he was like, yep, it turns out it was just a weather balloon and I'm just a moron.
Did he what did he say? Admit to being stupid? Like, how did that go about? Just like him being like, I was mistaken and it was a weather balloon?
Basically, he did very little talking at all in the press conference. And then it was kind of a situation where it was like, Colonel Marcel, this is what you saw, isn't it? And he's like, yep, that's what I saw.
Oh,
that must have been, so weird for a dude like that back then, especially like now. I don't know. Now it seems even different because we have such news coverage. But back then, in a small town like that, and he would have known. And now he's sitting there, and they're telling him like, "This is what you saw." Wow, that must have been crazy. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Like in his mind, imagine honestly what was going on in his head during that situation. Like, what a mind fuck.
And whatever they told him, which if I had to guess, based on dozens of witness accounts, was something along the lines of, we will kill you and we will kill your family. because that seems to be the line going around at the time. He was willing to basically just completely torch his entire professional reputation, and it never recovered.
Right. And to be fair, in this situation, I don't know that you can blame him. It's aliens.
No, yeah.
I mean, they're talking about killing your family. He knows what the government. He's in the government essentially as a military man.
Yeah, he knows how terrible it can get.
Right. So like, to me, it's like one thing if you're like he's dropping on a like lying, and it's about like. I'm just trying to think of something that would be going on right then, like, child rape or something. But it's like, It is aliens in the end. So it's like, you can almost understand, for sure in this situation, understand like, yep, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
These people sound like they're legit going to kill my family.
Yeah. And
yep, I'm an idiot. It was a weather balloon. Crazy.
Yeah. Okay. And so concurrently happening with this, there was this guy, Mac Brazel, who was a rancher who discovered all of this immediately. It happened on his ranch. And he goes to the local radio station at the time and ends up having this conversation. This is with the DJ at the radio station where somebody led him there kind of around this same period where they're like, yeah, you should talk about this. And the interview we'll get into was taken by the government from the guy who owned a bunch of radio stations actually's home and never recovered. But
the funny thing about that, and I said it to you guys when we were in the museum today, it's like, I mean, I get it. We all understand that we all at least believe for sure this isn't a weather balloon, right?
Yeah.
We get that. And I understand what I'm saying, but in the same hand, it's like, as a government, it's like the idea that they're telling at the time still that this is a weather balloon, but you're going to radio stations and stealing things. And actually in the museum, they also mentioned like radio stations all in the area, the Santa Fe, the Albuquerques, sending them correspondence saying, stop talking about this.
Yes.
And it's like, why would it matter if it was just a weather balloon, even for a government? And even if they had come out at some point and said, guys, this is a super secret thing we're doing for war.
Yeah.
I know we love to talk. It's just super classified. They don't even say that. Why wouldn't they even just say that, even if it was wrong? It's like weird that and it shows you, it must show you to me. And I'm sorry, but I literally just had a thought as I'm saying this, but like, to me, it gives more credence as I'm thinking about it to an alien ship, because it shows how caught off guard the government was.
Yes.
I had just thought about that in my mind. Like fact that they just threw out, weather balloon, and then we'll worry about it later.
Yep. Yeah. And this is really briefly. So this is because the radio station was actually one of the people that originally convinced this Mac Brazel to contact the government.
Right.
And we don't have the interview, but what we do have is a conversation between him that was recorded, between him and the DJ at the radio station that was recorded beforehand. And it's a little bit lengthy, but I really think it's worth reading. Brazel says, who's going to clean all that stuff up? That's what I want to know. I need someone out there to clean it up. And Joyce, the DJ, says, what stuff? What are you talking about? And Brazel says, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's one of them flying saucer things. And Joyce says, oh, really? Then you should call the air base. They are responsible for everything that flies in the air. They should be able to help you or tell you what it is. And then Brazel says, oh, God. Oh, my God. What am I going to do? It's horrible. Just horrible. And Joyce says, what's that? What's horrible? What are you talking about? And Brazel says, the stench. It's just awful. And Joyce says, the stench from what? What are you talking about? And Brazel says, they're dead. And Joyce says, what? Who's dead? And Brazel says, little people, unfortunate little creatures.
Wow.
And Joyce says, where did you find them? And Brazel says, someplace else. And Joyce says, well, the military is always firing rockets and experimenting with monkeys and things. So, and Brazel says, God damn it, they're not monkeys and they're not human. And that's like what we actually have up there.
Wow. And think about this, man. I'm not trying to be so simplistic, but this is a dude talking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is his thoughts at the time. And I get it, but man, he says he's very definitive. They're not monkeys, they're not humans.
And this is a man who spent his entire life on a ranch. He knows what a fucking animal looks like. He knows what a person.
Right. He would see things. He would even know stenches of dead, like you said, stenches of dead things that he's familiar with.
Yes. And the stench thing is a thing that comes up repeatedly, too, where there are spouses of people who are involved in this and
Man,
stuff.
what's in those aliens that smell so bad?
Yeah, for real.
Whatever it was, I mean, there's stories of people, like there was one guy who, for like he burned his clothes because he couldn't get the stench out of it.
Jesus Christ.
And then wore gloves when he would eat for the next like week or two because he didn't want the stench getting on his food.
Oh my
When
God.
he would eat.
That interstellar travel must be fucking wild.
Yeah, you gotta stink to go, you know?
I guess.
Yeah, what are they filled with, honestly?
Yeah.
It's like too many recounting of like they stink.
Yeah, the stink, like Sat said.
Maybe it's like when they're dead they stink. Maybe they're all right
Oh,
smelling.
I
when they're
assume that's
alive.
what it kind of was.
I mean,
assume-
we stink when we die, right? You shit
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
It goes kind of sour.
Yeah.
Rigor mortis is disgusting. A human body
Yeah,
decomposing
oh.
is not good smell.
And for the record, based on witness accounts, because I don't really know where else to throw this in anyway, and it's probably worth talking about at this point. The story seems to be there were whatever these things were, these aliens, whatever they were, there were 3 of them dead and 1 of them alive. And
Man, that's
Man,
wow.
that is wild.
That's wild.
yeah, and they had
Is that like there's so many movies I feel like that I've seen where the theme is that an alien like gave us technology that like they did die, but like they gave us a ton of technology before that happened.
yeah, that's definitely a thing amongst a lot of UFO enthusiasts and stuff like that. And something that, you know, for whatever it's worth, like I said, I'm not a UFO guy. I've spent a lot of time learning about this in the last week. I'm not committed to anything as far as like what exactly I believe, but I would say
I'll tell you this, I fucking believe for sure.
Anyway,
Yeah, after today, I'm full on.
I was just
They're
gonna say,
right.
maybe it's aliens, maybe it's not, but our technology has increased exponentially in an absolutely insane, unprecedented way.
Yeah, Steve
Since
Jobs was around.
1947.
Since
Whatever.
then.
Yeah, explain Steve Jobs. Explain this iPhone. Come on.
Yeah, he stole. Okay, for sure. Whether it was aliens or not, Steve Jobs definitely stole that technology.
Yeah.
So-
Or just is the alien still. Just
as we all sit here on our iPhones and iPad.
It's there.
well, thank you, alien Steve.
Yeah.
No, you know, he stole some good technology. Nobody's denying that.
Yeah. Yep.
So then you get the military. They come in. They set up like an armed perimeter. They start going systematically from house to house, ranch to ranch. They're walking the whole area shoulder to shoulder, bit by bit, making sure that they get anything that's present in that area.
Wow.
Yeah.
They have an outside perimeter set up of people with orders to shoot and kill anything that that crosses that perimeter.
Oh my God.
Oh my
like
God.
no warnings, no anything.
Again, for a
just-
weather balloon, correct?
Yeah.
And at one point, so Mac Brazel gets held.
Man, what? Sorry to do this to
Yeah,
you,
go
man.
ahead.
It's like, again, to me, it just shows you, to me, again, it gives validity to it because it's like the government could have easily just told the people,
Yeah.
we're trying, we're practicing something, we're not developing some new technology. It's very sensitive material, very sensitive information wise, but they didn't, and that just
Yeah.
shows you to me that again, they got caught off guard themselves.
And that they were willing to give orders to shoot and kill civilians.
Yeah.
On,
That's
like,
extreme on
Yeah.
our soil, like American soil.
Right.
it would have been a massive scandal if it would have actually happened.
Yeah.
Right. Because
I mean, it was
good,
lucky for them. I feel like it was in such a small town that they didn't have people trying to jump the fences and stuff.
And everything is connected within that small town. It's not like it got to spread out to other places.
And again, to your point about that, like they were willing to risk these orders because if they had to have done it, they would have, even though they outrage, because then you can't, I mean, I know you can, but it's harder to hide a military man just shooting an unarmed civilian walking in that situation. But they must have felt either confident enough, but also like it was worth the risk because what they had there was so big that if they had to deal with a person shooting a civilian, oh well.
Yeah. No, and there's a story about, because, okay, so Mac Brazel ends up getting taken in by the military for almost a week. And nobody knows like exactly what happens in that time period. But
That's the man who found
the rancher who found it, yes. But he basically disappears. His family doesn't really know where he is, but they suspect that the military's taken him. And they're like, we've got to get onto our ranch. These horses need water.
Yeah.
Right.
Like all of this sort of stuff. The military's not doing it. And the son tries to get onto his own ranch, being like, we just need to feed these animals. Just let us go to the barn or whatever. And is told, no, if you cross this line, we will kill you. Like, you need to get out of here.
What the fuck?
Wow.
That is wild. And he was gone for 5 days, you said?
Yes.
Wow.
And they had, so they went then from home to home to constantly, like I said, there are dozens of people that repeat that same threat. You didn't see anything, we will kill you and we will kill your family if you say anything.
Damn.
They ripped up people's floorboards. They cut open, like they went into the barns, you know, and were cutting open all the feed bags and spilling them out on the floor.
Looking for the metal
Yep.
and like all the debris. Oh my God.
Yes.
That's crazy.
That
man.
is crazy.
And I mean, they apparently, if you believe it, then they succeeded in collecting it all because this is never
surface. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that the weird thing there for the person who's skeptical, because not everyone does believe like I do, but like for the person that's skeptical there, then you could say, how could they get everything? And why isn't there a little piece of this out there? So that's the kind of the door open if you're looking to not believe.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true. I would say, first of all, like if you were to argue the opposite in that case, it was a very small, very contained area with a very small population.
Right. And you know, sorry to butt in there, but you're right. That is a thing that you're right. Because when we say this, we're all thinking of our own time right now, right? Like even today in a contained area, there's internet and stuff. Yeah. So you're right. Like this is an area, again, that you said population like 150 or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have electricity run out there. Now they might have had, we were discussing it earlier, they might have had like propane, I suppose. You know, I'm sure they weren't just on, you know, candlelight, but they did not have like power lines out there. So you're right. It definitely could be all gone.
And back then too, like I feel like it's not a person with a cell phone coming up and running up and looking at that shit.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It's by like stories, and if you cut off those stories or make those stories seem crazy, it'd be easier to cover it up.
And the level of intimidation, according to witness reports, like there was this 12-year-old named Frankie Dwyer. And once again, we only know this story because she said it on her deathbed. Like that's how long she held this.
How scared she was.
She was 12 years old at the time, and she had seen some of that metal, supposedly. And Lieutenant, we actually know who it was, some guy named Arthur Philbin, showed up at her house, took her from her parents to interview her.
Oh my God.
And then pulled out his billy club and started smacking it against his hand and said, you did not see anything. You got that? If you say anything, not only will you be killed, but your family will be killed too.
God,
it's a big desert out there. Nobody will ever find you.
Whew. And I can attest to that. That we all can at this point. We were all been driving around.
You could disappear someone real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Tip to our listeners: if you ever need to hide a body, New Mexico is the fucking place to do it. Dig a shallow grave.
That's
2 minutes from the road.
That's why Breaking Bad worked.
Absolutely.
So let me see. What else did I want to get into? Okay, yeah. So Mac Brazel did disappear for 5 days, and when he came back, he was escorted by military to a radio station, and the same radio station he had before. And then he went back and he was like, basically did the same thing as Marcel did. He's like, I was completely wrong. It was a weather balloon. It was always a weather balloon. Like, sorry for the mistake. And
it's such bullshit.
And that DJ Joyce ended up confronting him after the interview, after he retracted his story. And he's like, why did you change it? And he denied it several times. And then he was like, they told me it would go bad for me if I didn't change my story. And Joyce said, what about the little green men you said you saw? And he softly said they weren't green, and he left.
Okay, so that line in the movie was there.
Yeah.
Because in the movie he said they weren't, I'll just say they weren't green, and then walked out.
Yeah. Which would have been accurate because according to the witness stories, they were gray.
Yeah.
Sheep would not graze in the area for over 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
They put hungry sheep in these fields where it happened.
These motherfuckers gotta stink so bad. 5 years later.
I don't even, and probably more than the stink even at that point, but it could have been just the materials and the metal that had an effect on the plants and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Marcel took to his death. I mean, weeks before he died, he said it was not an aircraft of any kind that I'm sure of. We don't know what it was. It was nothing made on this earth. The 509, the bomb group, came out in 1978 and said,
No,
you were lied to. This was, which once again, I mean, these are military people.
Right,
This is
right.
like a serious military squad.
So they came out and said you were lied to. This was definitely the story you were told was not right.
Yes. So there was a woman. Well, I'll real quick get into this too. They did not have a morgue on the premises of the Roswell base. And what they would typically do is they would subcontract out if they needed a morgue. There was a local morgue in the area that they would use. And the morgue owner at the time has said that he got several phone calls asking about like child-sized coffins and asking about how to embalm something in a way where it would cause the least damage to it. Which is just like,
right.
And these aliens are supposedly 4 feet tall. So
Right. And that was he the person that his girlfriend disappeared?
Yeah,
or no?
she was the nurse, right?
Or was that a different person?
they kind of mashed them together in the movie.
Well, I was asking you about it.
Yes. In the movie, they mashed kind of his story and this nurse's story, which we can get into right now. Which also the woman we talked to in Corona brought up this nurse.
Yeah, correct.
She was working for a doctor at the base, and she came home really shaken one day, saying she had seen an alien corpse. After the first day or two, she refused to ever talk about it again and left and got married to some gay guy in California.
Weird.
And all of them were like, what the hell? Like, why did she leave for California? Why did she get abruptly married to somebody who was apparently, I mean, whatever. I don't even know how to factor this into the story, but was apparently like noticeably gay to where everybody was like, she married a gay guy.
Right.
And
I mean, maybe he was just open in his life. Like he just like it was like in a weird way, or
I think I got divorced. And
40s.
he got divorced. Oh, that's a good point. That is a good point. It was the 1940s.
Yeah, they weren't. You couldn't really do that.
No, you're right. Good point.
I mean, I think the assumption there is that she just hightailed it out of that area and found the first way she could.
Right.
She spent 39 years living in California. And then she started calling her sister saying, like, that stuff I told you was in the past was true. And, like, they're following me. I don't know what's going on, but, like, I'm being tailed. I'm seeing the same people and all of this. And her sister was kind of like, you seem paranoid. And then a couple of days later, she checked into a motel under her sister's name. And the next day, she was found with a plastic bag tied around her head.
Oh, my God.
And scratches all over her arms.
God,
I mean, you can't even like be like she got like killed herself. Like that was sloppy. Who are these fucking hitmen? Just like fuck it, we don't even care.
They knew they won't get in trouble.
That's true.
And the official story is it is a suicide.
What?
Yeah.
Scratches on her and a bag over your head. That's not how you kill yourself.
No. I mean, it isn't.
Well,
really smart.
I mean, no, you could. I mean, bag over your head.
But I mean, like, would you pass out and like wake
No,
up?
it can kill. No, it can kill you.
No, in
I
fact,
thought you need like something like
Breathing your own breath for that.
I get what you're saying. Your natural instinct
would be to stop.
But you can kill someone that way. Is the
kill
point.
someone that
kill
way.
someone
Yes.
that way.
I mean yourself. Like I feel like you need an outside. Like when you hang yourself, you can't stop it, and you might want to halfway through. But
Yeah.
you can't.
Well, you can kill yourself with carbon monoxide car in a garage.
That's true.
That's true.
But you kind of like don't have control over that either.
You fall
just
asleep.
You fall asleep.
It's
and then
very
you die.
Okay, well, I'm just saying you could do it.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, and for whatever it's worth, I've actually heard before that if you don't have a gun, one of the best, cleanest, easiest ways to kill yourself is to tie a bag around your head.
Oh,
So,
Because if you just do it strong enough, and if it's a good enough bag, maybe double bag it,
yeah.
and not the
Double
one kind,
bag.
not the condom kind.
the grocery guy.
Okay, so this is an interesting story too, and we're coming up close to on the end of this, but like this is an interesting story too, primarily because this is a guy who went on to have a political career for a long time. There's a guy named Joe Montoya, who at the time was
Sorry, dude. I know you won't care. Joe Montana was a major football quarterback, and it's just funny when he said Joe Montoya. I'm like, was Joe Montana a fucking? Never mind. Doesn't matter.
fascinating.
Yeah.
But so he was at the like Joe Montoya basically was at the Roswell base, called his friend, this guy named Ruben Anaya, in a state of panic, asking him to pick him up. This was still very early on. The base was not in full lockdown. It was still kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
And this Ruben guy had clearance to be on the base because he worked in the kitchen.
Right.
So he came up, he picked him up, and Montoya was like visibly shaken and asked him to go back to his house, where he just started drinking whiskey straight from the bottle.
Wow.
And they're like, what's going on? And he's like, I can't even talk. I need to calm my nerves. I need to
Yeah.
Ends up drinking over half the bottle. And then it says, you are not going to believe what I've seen. And if you ever repeat it, I'll call you a damned liar. And then he said a plate-shaped machine in the middle, or a plate-shaped vehicle with a machine in the middle had crashed. And there had been 4 inhuman bodies discovered, 3 dead and 1 still alive. He said they were 3.5 feet tall and extremely skinny with large bald heads. They were all wearing a silver flight suit, and the alive one was moaning as doctors worked on him. And then a few days later, the local sheriff in the area came up to Ruben and his family and asked if they had talked to Montoya. And when they said yes, he gave them that same line that everybody had been getting about, we will kill you and your entire family, including the children. And they tried repeatedly to talk with Montoya over the years about it, and he would just basically never say anything. And one time he said to this Ruben Anaya guy, it's too dangerous to talk about. The FBI will kill you.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy.
That is fucking crazy. Like, just, everybody just getting their family threatened, too. Like, everyone will die, even if they didn't know.
I really would, when Scott said he'd like to go back to the 4 days even, or 3 days or whatever, that this was, from the crash found to the government finally taking it seriously on some level, or just being turned in. I would love to see all this. I know that this happens other times. I know this. It's just because I personally like aliens that this intrigues me more than, for whatever reason, other situations. And I would, and just this being such a small town and in the 40s, and I'd love to have like a bird's eye view of this area for a few days, even.
Yeah. And
just like being in that bar. There was a bar in Corona, like he said, famously, people were in there kind of showing this stuff off. What were their reactions? What were they saying?
I mean, throwing it up and shooting it. Like, this seems like a whole little festival of like stuff they're doing. They're throwing it around, crumpling it up.
And the reason that time period would be so fascinating to me is, like, especially when the cover-up starts, like, everything in our lives, because of just the way the world is set up, it is fairly tightly controlled.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything is sort of observed. There's a limit to how far outside of the lines you're allowed to go.
Yeah.
And this was a moment where that wasn't happening, where it was just people being people.
Right.
Yep.
And it was because of the
institutions.
situation. Right. It was because of the situation, how desolate the area was, the timing of the thing, and yeah, you're right. They were allowed to react in a completely normal way, not worrying it for a little bit, having no worry about what would happen because of it.
Yeah, just a group of people who all knew each other that just stumbled upon some weird technology that they couldn't even fathom. So this is kind of interesting. The cover up, to me, originally they said it was a weather balloon, and then shortly after that, they kind of had to be like, well, okay, it wasn't a weather balloon. It was a more complicated secret weather balloon that had a bunch of like extra stuff attached. Whatever. And in 1959, they give this press conference where they
11 years later, 12 years later. I mean, Christ, you know what I mean?
11, yeah, exactly. 11 or 12 years later. And one of the things they said is that the things people thought were alien bodies were really wooden dummies that were put inside of the thing to test whatever. And they had one of those at the Roswell Museum today. And it does not look like a fucking alien. It looks like a mannequin.
And not just, okay, and it's like the people that said they saw the things, they just were very adamant, if you hear those things that you read or some of the accounts, that it was not humans. Yeah. And so the fact that they would, the idea that they would misplace, and we got to see, like Scott mentioned, made me and Tyler both walk over and really look at that one specifically because we were going to talk about it. The idea that you looked at what we saw there and been like, no, that's what I saw. No.
That a fucking rancher who spends his life on the earth making making his living and his life off of animals and people and understanding nature and shit like that would think that a wooden dummy was an alien, to the point where he was freaking out in that phone call that I read you.
Yeah, honestly, every single person who had interaction with the actual aliens sound horrified. Sound like this is like a really intense thing, not a like I'm making up a story thing. Like I don't ever want to talk about it. It's fucked up. Just I want to forget I saw those things.
Yeah, most of these people probably wish they hadn't seen it in reality. Especially that nurse.
Yeah, no kidding.
Seriously.
So in that 1959 press conference, there is a moment of audible laughter when they ask would they say that it was the dummies, and then somebody says, "But you guys didn't start using those dummies until 1953." And the guy replies, and he goes like, "Was it people? They remember things wrong. Time gets compressed when you think about it."
Oh my God!
Time gets compressed.
Like these people mistook a thing that happened 6 years later,
a living monster, for a wooden doll
that they saw in 1953 for an alien that they saw in 1947.
Yeah, that's insane.
You know what I would say about this, and you guys, because what it must be like also for him, the gall and the ability to get up on that stage and then just go, well, you must be confused. Yeah, crazy. I can't fathom. I have a hard time fucking, if I'm at the grocery store, if I felt like I've always said I can't shoplift, not because of the moral thing, but like literally I think everyone's looking at me.
Yeah.
And if I even just put a fucking candy bar in my pants, I think that oh God, 10 people saw me. And this dude is up on a press conference and able to just say that.
Totally.
But
the fucked up thing is that you could get away with it. That's still the official story. If you watch some like a Mythbusters or something like that, they're still gonna say that. They're still gonna be.
And the thing, it is weird. He knows he can say it.
Yeah.
But even knowing still seems odd to me.
I agree with you. I'm gonna start just have a shit-eating grin on my face. I'm gonna start laughing. I'm gonna be looking down, embarrassed that I'm fucking lying to you.
I'd just be like, yeah, that's it. I don't know what to tell you. That's the deal.
Yeah, that's what they told me to say, so I'm going to say it.
Yep. So do we have any final thoughts?
Aliens are real, and that was a landing.
I'm convinced after this podcast, it's full on. I'm gonna get some googly eye little things and go find me an alien.
Which makes me scared because these guys want me to drive out about a little ways out of town tonight so we can look at the openness in the sky at night. And I
gotta find them.
I gotta be honest, I was for it before, but now talking about this for an hour, I don't know, and I'm not kidding. It's not for the podcast. I think I'm gonna go, but
it's got a lot of horror things have to do with aliens.
Hey, we're on Facebook Live, by the way. So the local time is 6:13 p.m. Wednesday.
None of us are suicidal.
No, I love life.
Yeah, just so you know. Yeah, we're doing great.
I have no intentions of murder or suicide. None.
Neither one of those.
I also have no intentions of being abducted by an alien on this trip.
No, I see. So, I want to see an alien like I want to see a tornado from a mile away in a safe location.
Yeah. Maybe picking up a cow or something, sucking its insides out. I'd be okay.
But from a safe distance.
I want to see a UFO. I don't want to see an alien.
And not through the and definitely not probed, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no thank you.
I don't even want to get my fucking prostate examined in 3 years, let alone an alien probe.
Yeah, that's full on.
So just I guess as my final thought, I would want to say, and this kind of a thing I was talking to you guys about earlier too, where I'm like, it's so complicated being somebody who's into conspiracies. I'm like, this is a very convincing narrative. It makes a lot of sense. I'm 100% saying the government story is absolute bullshit. But with all things, it's very convincing. Still got to keep an open mind because if you accept this, there's so many things that you must accept after this. And I don't know what any of that means. Where it's you're like, okay, if they found aliens and one of them was alive, by the way.
Yeah.
What does that mean about presidential elections? What does that mean about fucking anything you watch on the TV? What is reality at that point?
And if that's true, what you say, what do you expect? Or what were you saying? How are you wording it?
What do you there's so many assumptions that must follow. If you buy into the idea that aliens landed,
right,
and one of them was alive and they had this alien technology, there's so many assumptions about reality that must follow that.
Which might include believing that King of Queens is more funny than Friends. If you know,
Teaser!
if you know what I mean.
Yeah, what are we doing next week, Eric?
Yeah.
Well, glad you asked, Tyler. So it's been bantered about on the road here for the past few weeks because there's everywhere you go, Friends is on, Nick at Night, and some of this.
If you have the remote, Friends is on.
And Ty and Scott here made the bold claim that
He couldn't remember Audacious. That's what you said.
the audacious claim that King of Queens is more funny than Friends, and I'm gonna try to dive into that and see what I think after. Well, I think of Friends is obviously better, but we're gonna talk about that next week on the episode.
Yep, we're excited.
And I'll be there too.
Well, Tyler likes Friends.
I do like Friends.
Tyler likes Friends too. So it is a 2-on-1 situation.
It definitely is.
And this is not me being a huge fan of King of Queens. This is me having absolutely no respect for Friends.
Fair. So I guess you can. It's your episode. You can.
Go ahead. Thank you, Eric. Thank you so much. So anyways, yeah, please 5-star reviews, ratings, please do that. Thank you so much for all the support. Thank you so much for listening again. We'll be back with an on the road episode, and then we'll be back with that episode Eric just said. So all right, have a good night, guys.